Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here with us today. It's my pleasure now to introduce our moderator, Jeff Tiessen. Tiessen, a double arm amputee and three-time Paralympian and world record holder, is founder of Disability Today Publishing Group. As a magazine publisher, his work focuses on providing individuals with disabilities with the tools and ideas for healthy, active lifestyles. Not much different is his role as Executive Director of Parasport Ontario, a new role that Tiessen has embraced and is committed to continue his personal and professional passion for positive change in the Paralympic movement. Thanks, Jeff, for being here with us today.
And that comes off the heels of a bronze medal in pairs in Lima, Peru last year at the 2019 Pan Am Games. That I have that right, Alison?
In individuals.
In individuals.
It was pairs and individuals, yeah.
Okay. And your sort of parasport journey is really kind of unusual. How quickly you rose to that ranking, that world ranking. Just reading some of your notes that I think it was within 3 weeks of throwing your first ball, you were recruited to the provincial team, and 3 months later, you and your partner became Canadian double champions, and within 6 months, you're on the national team. So I guess that was about 4 years ago. Can you share with us how you so quickly came to that success?
Well, I think it's partially because of my sporting background. I've been involved in numerous parasports since probably around the age of 15. I started in horseback riding, then moved on to wheelchair basketball and sledge hockey, then moved on to wheelchair rugby, and then on to Boccia. So I think I definitely have that athlete mindset, extremely competitive and determined, and anything I do, I want to give my best, and so that's what I did.
So is your focus mostly bocce now, or do you continue in some of those other sports recreationally? I mean,
Bocce is the only sport that I'm able to compete in because I have a degenerative disability. I was able to do those sports back then, but I no longer can do them.
So I understand as a teen that there was the onset of the degenerative disease. Is that right?
Yeah, I was 12 when I first started showing symptoms.
I see. Well, you've certainly made a place for yourself in the bocce world. You would have been no doubt on track or already qualified for Tokyo, right?
Yeah, I was already qualified for the Paralympics last June, even.
And in talking with other Paralympic athletes, that, I mean, talk about a time of uncertainty, but for you as high performance elite athletes, that waiting game in the early months of the year or the pandemic, what was that like?
It was difficult to say the least. It was, I think everyone living through such uncertainty it was life-changing, but especially, for an athlete, what we do is like we live to train and we live to compete. And then all that was taken away. But something I think all Paralympians have in common is our resiliency and ability to bounce back and to adapt. So when we couldn't go to training anymore, I was throwing balls in my apartment, which is far from ideal, but I was doing whatever I could to stay on track, knowing that eventually this pandemic will end and I will again get the opportunity to compete.
And how have you maintained that training? I understand you're practicing in your home. It's not the same, is it? And I mean, maybe it's fortunate for your sport and some others that they can do that. Swimmers, there was no swimming pool to go to. How did you mentally stay motivated, maintain your fitness level, your skill level, or were you able to improve? What did that all look like in your home?
It was one of the things I think was important was keeping in mind that it was okay to lose motivation at times and to take a break. We worked a lot with our team, mental prep expert, who kept reminding us that it's rare as athletes that we ever get a break, maybe 2 weeks at Christmas time, and use this opportunity to do other things that you're passionate about. Remove yourself from sport if you want to. If I was just throwing, a few balls once a week, that was fine. And if there was other weeks where I was throwing hundreds of balls every day, that was also fine, to really, allow myself to do what it was that I wanted to. And most of the time, I pretty much stuck to a schedule of throwing balls and using my stationary hand cycle and whatnot. And, motivation changed from week to week, and that was okay. But definitely happy to be back at training now.
And where is that? Where are you training?
We train out of the Olympic Stadium at the Institut National de Sport, so the National Sports Institute of Quebec.
Okay. Are you in Montreal? Is that where you live?
Yeah, I'm in Montreal.
Yeah. Okay, I see. So it sounds like it came down to perspective in a way, and that's so much what we all needed, regardless of being a high performance athlete, a recreational athlete, an enthusiast, or at work or with family. So it's interesting to hear what you have to say about that, and how it was okay not to be motivated sometimes, and you really just had to give yourself permission to get through this. Do you see that being applicable in your personal life, and maybe for those that have joined us today?
Definitely. I mean, if you don't have control over a situation and there's nothing you can do about it, there's no point stressing about it. It's just wasted energy being mad at the situation, whether that be the pandemic, or whether that be, anything, having a disability in itself, not being able to do certain things. There's nothing you can do to change the situation. You can only control how you react to situations. So if you make the conscious decision to try to put a positive spin on things by saying, okay, maybe I can't go to training, but I get to play a video game, which I normally don't get to do. Automatically your mindset is going to be much better, and you're going to be a much happier person. So I guess, it was a good opportunity to train, letting go of that control and just kind of going with the flow.
So it kind of forced you to, it sounds like some of that is real mental training, which athletes at your level receive or participate in as well. Sounds like it came in handy in these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. A couple of questions that have been sent in for us that I'll get to, and then some that have been provided. There's one about, and I think we've talked somewhat about it, about your emotional strength and resilience through your journey of in the disability community. Where do you think that comes from?
It's hard to say, but I think it's a learned behavior, where, I'm in a situation where I don't really have any other choice. My body is going to fail me. The older I get, the worse I'm going to get, and I can't do anything about that. But I don't want that to be the end of my story. I'm going to use it as an opportunity to enjoy every moment of my life. And it's just something that I've, you don't realize how strong you are until you have to be strong, I guess. So it's just how I've had to deal with the cards I've been dealt. And, don't get me wrong, I have my bad days, everyone has them. And I think it's important to acknowledge them and allow yourself to have those bad days. It's not always, sunshine and rainbows and whatnot. But that's part of being human.
Well, that's a great answer. Yeah, and really insightful, and it really kind of motivational for all of us to keep pressing through. And sometimes we don't have a choice, but sometimes we do. And it's great that you the choices that you've made to push forward. There's a question here about celebrity, and I think all of us with disabilities, we know that it comes with a dubious celebrity disability. That is, doesn't matter if we're athletes or not, but you know, we do stand out in a crowd sometimes, and how do we manage that? I guess that's maybe a choice too, in how you respond to things, like you're saying. But you've reached that celebrity status on another level, and that being an athlete. How does that affect you in your life?
Um, I'd say it doesn't. I mean, it gives me opportunities. I have, numerous organizations, such as this one, reaching out to me, wanting to do talks and whatnot. Um, and I love being able to, I guess, spread my love for bocce and para sport, because it certainly changed my life. And any opportunity I can get that may have it change someone else's life as well is a plus for me. But in general, if it doesn't come to the disability community, even within the disability community, unfortunately, really no one knows what bocce is. No one knows who I am. No one really yet cares about para sport like they do about Olympic sport. And it's a battle we're constantly fighting to get the recognition we deserve. And things are improving, but hopefully, I guess the dream is 10, 20 years from now, people will turn on their TV and there'll be para sport just as much as there is, regular sports. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing your perspective of that as relatively new to the Paralympic level. My experience with the Paralympics was back in '88 and '92, and we said the same thing. And I've seen 20, almost 30 years pass where I have seen a lot of change, and we're not there where we want to be yet. And it will be really interesting to see how ambassadors like yourself kind of take us to that next level. So yeah, I like I say, kind of interesting perspective for someone that is competing now and not then when
Yeah.
I was. From a recreational standpoint, did you start bocce with that in mind, or were you sort of locked in on I want to take this to a national level?
I always say that I kind of fell into bocce, and that my career was never really, and this is in no way a bad thing whatsoever, but it wasn't even my choice. It's just something that happened. I was coming to the end of my wheelchair rugby, I guess, like career, because I wasn't able to play without risking damage to my neck. And I was volunteering at a wheelchair rugby tournament where I was just doing, the score. And another former rugby player and current bocce player, Marco Dispalcio, came looking to see if there was anyone that would, be eligible, because you have to class into bocce, you have to have a certain level of disability. And he was there, and I just threw a few balls, and I was good, and I enjoyed it. And so he gave me a paper and said, contact this person, they'll tell you where to go. It happened to be a Team Quebec training camp. And I went, and they told me more about bocce, and I just did what they said. And then they told me, okay, show up at this place at this time. So I did that. And it just kind of happened that they were just go here, do this. And before I knew it, the go here, do this was the tryouts for the national team.
Mm.
And I was training with them. And then it was, you're selected to the team. And I was like, okay, cool. What does this mean? And then 3 years after, it was okay, you've been selected to the Paralympics. And I was like, okay, cool. And now 7 years on, it's just just going along, doing what the coaches say, enjoying every moment of it. And I mean, if I didn't have so much passion for it, there's no way I would still be doing it, because it is, being an athlete, you know that it's an incredibly demanding job, financially, physically, even emotionally. So it's something that, I guess it's my decision to stay in it and continue doing it, but it was never me dreaming, oh, I want to go to the Paralympics and be #1 in the world at bocce. No, nor did I ever even really get the chance to play recreationally. It was right from the start, boom, all in.
Yeah, wow. And what a departure from wheelchair rugby, formerly known as murder ball, to bocce, and then let alone horseback riding, like you said. Are you still able to ride horses, or I don't know who likes to play murder ball, but it's a different mindset
uh,
for sure. But do you miss those?
no, I do actually. Wheelchair rugby is my favorite sport. I can't play it, and I haven't been able to play it in 6 or 7 years. But to this day, I mean, obviously, I've had most success with bocce, but
Yeah,
wheelchair rugby still remains my favorite. So yeah.
interesting. Um, Back to the recreational aspect. So with always new potential athletes emerging, whether they want to be elite, like you never even thought of, but just want to play. Um, Often there's in our community, there's a reservation to take on something physical, like a sport, and sometimes we're our own worst enemies in getting involved. What kind of advice would you have for someone of any age that would want to get involved in sport, and maybe bocce is a great one for them?
It sounds like stupidly simple, but just go for it. Like, don't think about it. Just do it. Um, as humans, our nature tends to be kind of competitive, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can purely be just for fun. Um, Bocce is an incredible sport for so many reasons. But just playing for the sheer enjoyment of the sport and what it is, forgetting about even all the benefits it has for the body, participating in the sport. Um, there's no reason to be apprehensive in any way to just get out there and try it. It is a uniquely frustrating sport. My case is kind of rare. Normally, it takes around 10 years for you to actually get good at it. Um, so that tends to be a deterrent for people who come and try bocce, is that they're not very good at first. But knowing that that's perfectly okay and you are going to improve eventually.
Just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Just do it. Don't think.
That's where it starts. Tell us, and I don't know if your training routine is what it was pre-pandemic, but you said you're back at it outside of your home. Like, what would a day look like? A day in the life of Alison, preparing for an international games.
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely has changed a lot. But before pandemic, it was a day on, day off court. So every other day I was on court training. And that would consist of 3 hours with my teammates and my coach. Um, we would do different drills, game simulations, um, a regular bocce practice over 3 hours. Um, then on the days off, or there would be physiotherapy, massage therapy, meetings with our mental preparation expert, team meetings. We do lots of video reviews of watching ourselves in past games to kind of learn about ourselves, watching our opponents, stretching every day, breathing exercises every day. It's a full-time job. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Sounds like a full-time job. So
Yeah.
what kind of support network do you have around you in terms of personnel? And then I want to ask the same about financial and how you do it. But you had mentioned some of the different training exercises that would include others. So tell us about coaches, physiotherapists, psychologists. Is that all part of the team?
It's all part of the team. Yeah. Once you hit the elite level, your team kind of grows. A well-rounded athlete is the best type of athlete. When it comes down to it, the most vital members, I guess, is our sports assistants, who are our one-on-one, carers, and performance partners is the new term for them. In my case, it is actually my mom. So she works with me the 3 days a week that we're on court training. She's responsible for picking up the balls, doing the game situation setups and whatnot. Anything physical that I can't do, she helps me with, and that includes even taking me to the washroom when I have to have a break and whatnot. She travels with me and keeps me alive when we go to all these foreign countries. And then the coach is the other most important person. But the team is filled with physiologists and physiotherapists, and massage therapists, and mental preparation experts. And really, we have, because we train at the Institute for Sport in Quebec, we have all those expertise available to us, which is great.
Wow, that's quite a privilege, I guess, for an athlete to have that kind of access. And
Yeah.
probably in years past, Paralympians didn't have all that support. So I mean, that
Yeah.
is progress for sure.
We're actually the first para sport to be at the INS, the Institut National du Sport, as a resident sport. So that's cool.
That is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess there would be financial support as well from Sport Canada or CPC to help with your training.
Yeah, well, once you're a national team athlete, it's kind of based on how well you do. Being number one in the world, I receive the highest amount of carding. They call it carding, and it's pretty much your living and training allowance is what it is. So it's a monthly amount of money that allows me to live,
Mm.
and afford my rent and whatnot, and have enough gas for my van to go to and from practice. But because my sports assistant is my mom, we have kind of a deal worked out where she can be compensated. But if it wasn't my mom, there wouldn't be any way that I would be able to afford um, having an assistant with me all the time. So
Yeah. Mm.
yeah.
I have a question from Harriet, and she asks, "How do you get funding?" I think what that means, if I can interpret it, is how we, other athletes get funding assistance for training and for tournaments and even going to games. And she's listed PSWs, food and travel expenses, wheelchair accessibility at various accommodations. So how does someone that's established in the sport, maybe not at your level or wants to get started, are there opportunities to get that kind of support?
I think it varies by province and different organizations that have grants for people starting out in sport. Um, but I have to say, if you're at like an intermediate level where you're not quite national team yet, it boils down to the situation of every other single sport, whether it be para sport or not. It's expensive. And as it's kind of hard because in order to become elite level, like you need money, but you don't get money until you're the elite level. So it's kind of like a catch 22. And as terrible as it is, because we all know the important benefits of sport, it's unfortunately out of pocket, and those you have to budget and you have to make sacrifices in other ways and budgetary cuts to be able to afford your sport. Still, like when I travel and whatnot, or national level competitions or provincial level competitions, that's all out of pocket. And I think it's important to be vigilant by keeping your yearly budget. And if sport is something that's really important to you, you'll find, I guess, the money and the way to do it. And the other thing is to also always just keep looking online for different organizations and programs, and don't be afraid to reach out to different companies asking, hey, do you sponsor any athletes, or introduce yourself and see what can go from there.
Yeah, good suggestion. How about the reaching out and asking? And we found that service clubs like Rotary and Kiwanis and some of those are willing to help sometimes. And even a plug for Parasport Ontario. We don't have all the answers, but we can try and connect anyone who we might know is out there that could help. So,
Yeah.
probably a little bit more technical question, I think. It's from Catherine Weber, and I don't know if she's online, but her question, I went to regionals in Ontario after my first tournament. I'm a class 4, and I would like to know if there is a future they're going to events for class 5.
Class class BC5 is a class that's recognized in Canada, so you can compete up to the you can compete up to the provincial level. So if you qualify as the best BC5 in your province, you can potentially go to nationals. But internationally, BC5 is not a recognized class, and no, there will be no international competitions of BC5s.
Okay, that would answer her question, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Kind of working to the end of my list, and Julianne, I don't know if you want folks that are involved, if they have a question, to continue, but the last one I have here is, what steps do you recommend someone who is thinking of trying bocce for the first time? And you might have answered that with the go for it, but what about the equipment, the where, the who? How would someone get involved?
Look for your closest club, first of all. I know in general, from my experience of just knowing the bocce community, everyone seems to be very welcoming. And, just reaching out and say, hey, I'm interested. They should be able to guide you what you have to do. Not necessarily as a beginner to have your own equipment, because bocce balls can range from cheap to extremely expensive. Obviously, elite level, we're using the best, which are very expensive, but other clubs most of the time have club balls that you can use. Know that it's probably not the best equipment, but you're going to still be able to play bocce and have fun. And if it's something that really interests you and you get into it, then you can start looking, especially if you're like a BC3 or ramp player, start looking at maybe into purchasing your own ramp, which will make a huge difference. But yeah, just, don't be shy, show up, give it more than one chance, give it more than a few chances. Mm-hmm. If you don't like it at first, keep going. I'm sure after a bit, you'll get to like it.
And it's as much as, like you talked about, the benefits of sport and physical activity. There's also camaraderie and friendships and just general socialization that would come in any sport. I would think that's the same with bocce, right? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, meeting other people, having that support network and people that are passionate about the same thing as you. My teammates are some of my best friends, and it's really a community and kind of like a family as well too, because we're always there for each other. We got each other's backs, and it's just overall, I went to a few recreational practices to do a few talks as an athlete, and just observing the club practices, sometimes it's 50% bocce, 50% just hanging around and talking, and that's okay. It's yeah.
I've got one last one, and it's a personal question, but as any sport teaches us things about ourselves, what has bocce taught you about yourself, unlike some of the other sports you've played?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that no matter how, I guess, set in your ways you are, or how old you are, or your way of doing things, there's always room for improvement and change. I'll give you an example. Bocce requires a lot of patience, and a lot of things happens during the game that you don't, I guess, have control over, and that you have to kind of adapt and improvise really quickly. I am not a patient person by nature at all, and I've improved greatly over the years, even in such things as being stuck in traffic nowadays. I mean, compared to that before I played bocce, I was like that person that was like, oh my God, move already. And now it's just like, okay, this is happening and I'm going to deal with it. So I think it's really shown me that it's never too late to grow and change as a person and improve as a person.
Well, what a great message for us all. Patience right now is something that we can all look for a little bit more of, and yeah, what an interesting story. Thank you for really sharing some personal things, and yeah, kind of enlightening us on how it all works at the high performance level, but really how well you can kind of share with where your journey began, and I think that has a message for all of us. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Juliana, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Jeff, so much. This is such a present, a gift for us to have you here. We are very honored. On behalf of a Vibrant Healthcare Alliance, we are very proud of you both. And let's continue to show all these positive and examples of resilience to all of our participants. And to all of you that are here, thank you so much. I have a good news. Our center is open up again, reopened for bocce practice. So we have one group, we have 4 spots, because instead of 12 people together, we'll have only 4 now. So if you would like to register with us, please contact us. Also, we have different clubs around Ontario, Toronto. Jeff can help you, and we are here to help our community and support you, okay? Thank you. One more thing I mentioned about prizes. So the prize that you have today is for someone here that has birthday closest to today. Who is the one that has the birthday closest to today? We will send you a kit, a Bocce kit for you to practice at home, throwing. And let me know. You can send me an email. And also the first person to join us, that was, we have to see the record. Or was Adam or Harriet, but we will see. We will see through the record and talk to you. But thank you so much. It was Harriet. She's saying, okay, but thank you. Have a good day. We are here for you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Juliana.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.